On the headlines, as Nigerians count down to May 29, stakeholders express concern about transition to new administration.
He is preparing, doing everything possible to ensure that he hands over on the 29th.
Plus, Senate President inaugurates Democracy Radio and Center for Security Analysis.
We are obliged as an arm of government responsible for shaping public policy, making laws and representing citizens.
A very good evening and welcome to the Parliamentary News with me, Muhammad Rabiu Ali. As Nigerians anticipate the inauguration day of the 16th President of Nigeria, stakeholders in the country are concerned about the transition of the outgoing leadership of the APC to the incoming leadership of the same party. The reinvigoration of policies, substitution of cabinet officers, and focus on legacy projects were crucial on Good Morning Nigeria today, as guests on the program made contributions on which direction the government will go. Ibrahim Damhamidu reports.
We are on course. Definitely we are on course. The outgoing president had made it very clear that he is preparing, doing everything possible to ensure that he hands over on the 29th. And the leader of the transition process is the SGF, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. And that automatically means that the government is fully involved in planning to hand over to the incoming government.
President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawal, says the establishment of the Center for Security Analysis under the legislative arm of government will give the Nigerian lawmakers a better insight into security issues bothering the nation for prompt legislative action. He said these at the inauguration of the center and a radio station to promote democracy in Nigeria. John Yaku reports.
The newly inaugurated Legislative Center for Security Analysis is basically to identify conflicts, carry out research on causes of the conflicts, produce research report, draft security bills, motions and resolutions. President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, believes this will give lawmakers the insight into security matters for speedy consideration.
And therefore, we are obliged as an arm of government responsible for shaping public policy, making laws and representing citizens, which grants us the legitimacy to play a central role in ensuring security sector governance.
Similarly, the President of the Senate inaugurated the Needs Democracy Radio 104.9 FM to educate and sensitize Nigerians on tenets and values of democracy.
Conscientize and mobilize the citizens to participate effectively in the political process.
We hope that these two outfits, the legacy of the 9th Assembly, will be of greater relevance to deepening democracy.
We know that this democracy radio is what the nation has been waiting for.
Director General, National Broadcasting Commission, presented copies of the Nigeria Broadcasting Code to the Director General of Needs to maintain ethical standards of the broadcast industry.
It is therefore expected that your content would emphasize progressive, democratic-oriented programs.
Pioneer General Manager of Democracy Radio Station, Muhammad Kudu Abubakar, speaks on its operations.
We are not just 104.9, we are also a podcast. So persons can view us on our YouTube channel, and they can see us with their mobile phones if they have data.
The two outfits are legacies of the 9th National Assembly. In Abuja, John Yaku, NTA News.
On the 29th of March 2023, the Federal Executive Council approved the liquidation of top priority judgment debts and general debts incurred by ministries, departments, and agencies of government. President Muhammadu Buhari has written to Senate seeking legislative approval for the resolution. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Onkwo reports.
For the resolution of the National Assembly.
Plenary commenced with President of the Senate Ahmad Lawan reading executive communication from President Muhammadu Buhari. The letter seeks approval of Senate to liquidate various judgment debts incurred by the federal government.
In the sum of USD 566 million 754,000 British pound, 98,526,000 and 226,201,801,881 naira 64 kobo.
Senate passed 3 bills on science and technology, the National Innovation Agency establishment, Nigeria Atomic Energy Commission Repeal and Reenactment Bill, and the Nigerian Content in Programs, Contract, Science, Engineering, Technology and Innovation Establishment Bill. It also passed the Federal Audit Report Implementation and Enforcement Bill.
Mr. President, the objective of this bill, one, is to develop the ways and technical machinery for effectively exploit and harness atomic energy for peaceful applications for sustainable national development.
On our Public Accounts Committee resolutions or recommendations, implementable and must be mandatorily implemented.
The National Emergency Management Agency Act Amendment Bill, which seeks to provide for the establishment of NSAS Victim Compensation Fund, sponsored by Senator Gaston Bassi, passed second reading.
For the compensation of verified victims of the 2020 NSAS protests.
Senate continued legislative intervention on education as it passed 2 higher institutions establishment bills. The Federal University of Technology, Sabon Birni in Sokoto State, and the Federal University of Creative Arts and Studies in Idiato South Local Government Area of Imo State. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
And the House of Representatives recommends that a forensic audit of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited be conducted in order to unravel discrepancies in the importation and supply of premium motor spirit. This, the House says, has become necessary to ascertain the daily average volume of PMS consumed in Nigeria. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The recommendation was part of the 4 considered and adopted by the House as submitted by its ad hoc committee set up to find out how much of petrol is consumed daily in Nigeria. This was to identify loopholes in the subsidy regime costing the country trillions of naira. The committee explains that in the course of the assignment, it realized that there was no available data to conclusively arrive at the volume of PMS consumed on daily basis.
We look at the area of supply, we look at the area of distribution, we look at the area of storage. What NNPC will give you as the supply of petroleum products, particularly PMS to the country, is different from what the authority gives, and it's also different from what Nigerian Navy gives. When we asked the Accountant General to tell us the amount that the country pays for subsidy, the Accountant General could not give us an answer.
Recommendation 2, expedite the full implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act. Carried.
The House has considered and approved federal government's request to extend the implementation of the capital components of the 2022 appropriation and the 2022 supplementary budget.
To extend the implementation of the capital aspect of the Appropriation Act 2022 from 30 June 2023 to 31st December 2023 and for other matters standing in the name of the House Leader.
The House passed 12 bills after third reading. Among them, bill to establish National Youth Service Corps Trust Fund and that of Nigeria Education Loan Fund, which seeks provision of interest-free loans to indigent Nigerians to access higher education. The House has resolved to investigate alleged illegal utilization of funds appropriated for zonal intervention projects in the 2022 budget of the Ministry of Trade and Investment.
Investigate the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Trade and Investment for unauthorized environment and illegal utilization of funds appropriated for the zonal intervention projects 20221459 in the Appropriation Act of 2022.
Meanwhile, House members have urged the Federal Road Safety Corps to mitigate a rising number of accidents along Bauchi-Maiduguri Road, considering the lives being lost. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Still to come, The National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, in partnership with African Group of Negotiators, experts support exchange of ideas with parliamentarians from African countries in Lagos. These are more news after this break.
NTA Parliament is a dedicated 24-hour channel that broadcasts activities of the Nigerian Senate, Federal House of Representatives, and all the 36 state houses of assembly. NTA Parliament, strengthening Nigeria's democracy.
Thanks for being there. As the clock of the current administration ticks to final moments, the Kano State House of Assembly is leaving no bills behind. Samira Hamishura reports that the 9th House of Assembly has passed the Kano State Child Protection Amendment Bill and the Kano State Road Funds Bill. Her reports.
The Kano State Roads Funds Bill 2023 is aimed at complementing the Rural Access Roads Bill that was earlier passed by the legislature. It will, among other things, strategize how funds will be sourced for the finances of the Rural Roads Agency. In another development, the House has also passed the Child Protection Bill 2023, which has been in the corridors of stakeholders for over 8 years and has attracted the attention of community-based and civil society organizations, including development partners.
How to protect children in terms of education, orphanage system, how the orphanage should be, how the orphanage house should be operated, what are the things that need to be done in the orphanage house, then what are the things what are the offenses or the penalty done on the person who take for child abuse.
The House has been adjourned to Monday, the 5th of June 2023. From the Kano State House of Assembly, Samira Hamishura, NTA News.
The gains made by the current administration in terms of cordial working relationship between the executive and the legislature can be sustained if the current leadership of the Senate is sustained. This is the position of a civil rights group known as the National Integrity Group. Ikechukwu Ndukwe reports.
Joseph Ode is the spokesperson of the National Integrity Group. He has watched, seen, and believed that sustaining the current leadership composition at the Senate with Ahmed Lawan as Senate President will help the incoming administration easily implement the promised renewed hope and eschew the 8th Assembly experience.
With the fortuitous election of a responsive and responsible president in person of the Jagaban, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigeria will be best served by the continuation of the pragmatic and patriotic style of the current Senate under the leadership of distinguished Senator Ahmed Lawan to ensure the rekindling of the renewed hope, a cornerstone of the manifesto of the President-elect. Nigerians may recall how the PDP adopted the same principle of continuity in leadership, with Senator David Mark presiding over the 6th and 7th Senate.
The group says that sacrificing merit to zoning, ethnicity, and other political considerations may spare doom for the incoming administration in Nigeria. Ikechukwu Ndukwe, NTA News.
To create awareness amongst parliamentarians in African countries on how to formulate laws and constitute oversight functions that address climate change on the continent, the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, in partnership with African Group of Negotiators, experts support exchange of ideas with parliamentarians from African countries in Lagos. Larry Beley has the details.
Seated in this hall are parliamentarians and staff of legislative houses of countries in Africa, rubbing minds on ways to scale up lawmaking sessions in their various parliaments on climate change, which they admitted has not really received needed attention. For the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, convener of the conference, led by its Director General, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, the objective of the workshop is to discuss ways of harmonizing lawmaking process on climate change in Africa.
Can't even talk about evaluations, monitoring where there are no laws. The first thing is, how do we get laws in place? How do we get laws, on ground? How do we make sure we come up with legislation on climate change to save the life of our people?
This view is corroborated by African Group of Negotiators, Expert Supports, AGNES, and parliamentarians from other countries.
We suffer a lot from losses and damages from climate change. But how much of it are we quantifying, and how are we articulating all these things to the international community?
We've been having series of meetings as to how we can reserve part of our land to prevent climate change in our country.
We cannot do much if we don't have legislation, because that gives us the power to be able to push for additional budget, to be able to push for certain policy direction.
Another goal of the conference is to ensure public and private enterprises commit to zero emissions through legislative laws in participating countries. In Lagos, Larry Bilayi, NTA News.
The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on International Relations and Cooperation, Mr. Supra Mahumapelo, notes with appreciation the legacy of the development of Dangote's mega refinery complex in Lagos State, which is a major crude exporter and importer of refined petroleum products. In a statement by the Parliamentary Communication Services, Mr. Mahumapelo said, the investment by Aliko Dangote is a demonstration of a very deep faith in Nigeria, Africa's ability for economic development, and the ability of the people to translate an idea of a complex refinery into a practical complex development that offers remarkable economic spins off to the people of Nigeria and, by extension, Africa. The $9 billion project, according to him, will bring an end to Nigeria's inability to refine its crude and having to depend on importation. He further commended President Muhammadu Buhari's administration for ensuring that the project was realized by ensuring the availability of needed foreign exchange, stating that other Africans and countries should emulate this example of practical patriotism of Mr. Aliko Dangote to discover potentials of their countries. Mr. Mahumapelo further said, it is encouraging and reviving as people of Africa to note a potential of this nature in the African continent, which is a proof that there is ability in Africa to produce a complex refinery and process its products within Africa. And the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has officially engaged the incoming First Lady, Senator Oloremi Tinubu, acquainting her with the traditional responsibilities of the office towards complementing the roles of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The First Lady has also handed over some documents to serve as a guide to deliver on the tasks ahead. State House correspondent Aliu Kabir reports on these and other engagements of the First Lady.
Receiving the incoming First Lady in the State House, the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Buhari, has expressed confidence in the outstanding leadership role of Senator Oluremi Tinubu, both as a lawmaker and during her tenure as the First Lady of Lagos State. Mrs. Buhari explained that though the office of the First Lady is unconstitutional, but the role of the spouses of the President across the globe cannot be neglected, taking into cognizance their complementary functions towards serving humanity. She maintained that Senator Oluremi Tinubu is courageous to perform that task. She therefore handed over some documents to incoming First Lady, preparatory for her final disengagement from the affairs of the office. Mrs. Buhari has also presented the seal of the Africa First Lady's Peace Mission to the incoming First Lady, confirming the hosting right of their annual general meeting.
We enjoy the goodwill of the citizens in order to carry out some basic things like humanitarian activities, and we partner with a lot of NGOs in order to help our citizens, and I have enjoyed that goodwill for the last 8 years. So I have prepared handover notes just to guide you.
The incoming First Lady has expressed appreciation to Mrs. Buhari for setting standards, adding that she will continue to seek further advice when the need arises.
I believe that you would always be a phone call away if I need an advice or two. But throughout this transition, you've been very magnanimous. And all the people you've introduced me to either advise me on, the next things to do, I want to thank you, ma. And I pray that God, in His mercy, would go with you and Baba. You've really set the standard, and it's a very, very big shoe.
In the meantime, the First Lady has also received in audience the Association of the Spouses of the Nigerian Ambassador serving in various countries, led by the wife of the Nigerian Ambassador to the Republic of Burundi, Udo Onyegba. They have congratulated the First Lady for her doggedness towards improving lots of women and children, not only in Nigeria, but across the continent, particularly her initiative of donating nutritional products to vulnerable children in other African countries, as well as her health and empowerment programs across Nigeria.
As an unofficial representative of Nigeria, you are tasked with projecting the image of Nigeria in a positive light. I know you have all done that with grace, poise, and decorum, and I congratulate you all for the successful way you have supported your husbands in their roles as ambassadors.
You have indeed, as our mother, proven yourself to be a woman with a heart of gold, as your humanitarian services have not just been limited to the scope of Nigeria, but to other parts of the world.
The association has decorated the First Lady as pioneer patron aimed at promoting the welfare of their members as well as projecting the good image of the country. From the State House, Aliu Kabir, NTA News.
And that concludes the news on Parliamentary Channel. Thanks for watching. Good evening.